So this will be a continuation of the last video, and I've just started on the second layer of dots because, as you can see, there's not a lot of height to them at the moment, and you can see where the difference is of where I've started. And with each row that I come out, the dots will get bigger and bigger. So there'll be, not only will the dot size be different, but also the height of the dots will change too. And I don't know how long it's been since I last painted. It's been a while, but it's just been sitting here, which is something that took practice to just naturally allow paintings to come out of me rather than feeling any need to force them out. So now it's almost to the point where I really let a painting build up inside of me to get to the point where it's like I can feel the painting just like ready to, I guess, pour out of me. And especially because for me, everything is energy and vibration and intention. And so when I'm painting, I like to be in a specific vibration. Because then whoever I share the painting with gets to experience that vibration. And the same for whoever chooses to be listening to this. Because I was earlier listening to Sam Garrett, and sometimes I'll read the comments on YouTube, and something that I've noticed a pattern with is sometimes people are drawn to somebody's vibration. I mean, everyone's drawn to different people, places, things vibrationally, but some people are aware of differences in their own vibration that, you know, some people would label as anxiety or depression, or, you know, I regularly read comments where people are saying that, you know, different people's music helps them through different challenges. And, you know, because I'm aware that whatever my vibration is coming out of my vocal cords. So some people may watch for the painting and others may listen just to, they may use terms like help regulate their nervous system or however they would choose to articulate it, because everybody's perception and articulation of everything is different. Even energy itself, and which something I've noticed lately is I've been having a lot of conversations about the vibration of different foods, and it's been interesting to hear where different people are at, and see what their beliefs are consciously and subconsciously, and it's the different relationships people have with different things. And I've been experimenting. I've been consciously experimenting with food, with consuming different foods, and also paying attention to the shifts within my own being, depending on what I'm consuming. Which, initially one aspect of that was food, but I very much pay attention to that with everything now, like be that music or artwork or anything. It's, this paint is one particular vibration, this tool, this painting, me, everything is, for me to be able to perceive it, it is vibrating at different frequencies that then I perceive through what I perceive is, eyesight. And then that is interpreted through, different filters and lenses and perspectives, and depending on what sensory input I'm also perceiving things through. And it's also been interesting because sometime recently I had a passenger when I was driving some rideshare rides, and it was a gentleman who was a Sikh, and having a conversation with him about we essentially become what we consume, which was why he chooses to only eat veg and won't consume non-veg. And then recently I came across a video of a gentleman who has been a breatharian for 19 years. Well, 19 years when the recording was made, which, it's time is time. But it was also interesting hearing him speak about his relationship with food, and it's for me, I don't compare to judge. That's something that I used to do. But now it's comparing to see where I'm at, and if something different may fit and align with where I would like to experience something other than what my current experience is. Because for me, I perceive everything as a choice in life. And if we want to experience different experiences, it's just a matter of becoming a vibrational match to whatever that experience is. And then it just automatically manifests into our physical human experience. And for me, it's I actually use food for, like, I don't have any stories and programs that particular foods are good or bad, or any of the stuff that I used to have, because I used to have a lot of programs and stories running that, especially growing up in the West, that, there's so many programs about food, and I mean, there is everywhere, but my experience has obviously been from growing up in the West, and the programs run by businesses to sell their food products. And then at some point, I would say somewhere around 10 or 15 years ago now, I noticed while I was eating that I had particular thoughts about what I was eating. And then I noticed a direct correlation between what I was thinking about what I was eating and the experience that I would have with what I was eating. And now I guess where I'm at with that is that for me, in particular, like if I was to eat non-veg, it's a lot denser. So for me, it uses, well, not that it uses, it interacts with my prana in different ways. So for me, it's something that I don't choose to do very often, and also because I'm very aware that we become what we consume. So if I was to, chicken and lamb, like if you look at the characteristics of both of the animals, they're actually quite similar in a lot of ways. That they're very flighty animals, and they're easily spooked, and it's very apparent when I see people who consume those animals. Or beef is another one where it's, I don't need to explain what different animals do, because you can pay attention to that yourself if you wish. But it's, for me, I actually use food to, I guess, in some ways lower my vibration. And create more density, because for me, there has been times that I've got what feels like too clear, and I would actually be really curious to hear if anybody listening to this happens to have had any similar experiences, but when you are connected to source in a particular way, you become aware of the fact that we have the capacity to, I'm going to use the word ascend just because, it's a word that people will understand and be able to relate to easier. But essentially, you can reach a point where you can ascend to the point where you drop the body. And for those that aren't quite sure what I mean, I'm saying like consciously exiting the human experience through consciousness. And for me, I have so much fun in the human experience that another way to perceive it would be that I consume food and drinks to generate more karma for myself intentionally to prolong my human experience. Because, it's I really enjoy being in the human experience, and for me everything is essentially just different experiences. And it's like food, everything is vibrationally different, but also the experience of different tastes and textures and smells and all of it, it's incredible to continuously explore those different physical sensations, because without the physical form, those experiences don't exist, which for me is why we're incarnated in the physical form anyway. And so for me, it's it's about having the physical human experiences, also simultaneously it's not just the physical, it's the energetic and emotional and all of the experiences. They're all of the things that are only available in what we perceive as the physical human experience. Like that dot. That dot really was not the way that I intended it to be, but it's the way that it's meant to be, because that's the way that it is. And it's like any time I have an experience that I in the moment may not particularly perceive that I enjoy, but I know that if I'm having the experience, it's the experience that I'm meant to be having. And it's only the mind that ever thinks otherwise. And I've had, and I've also had so many people share so many different experiences with me that the more the more I experience the human experience, the more I realize that everything is necessary and exactly the way that it's meant to be. Because at the end of the day, everything in its totality in the human experience is source experiencing itself. And, like Like, as you know, this painting currently is just with the black and white. There's a lot of contrast there, but that contrast, the same as my perception of different experiences, will change the more I paint, because once I've done this layer of dots, I'll start covering these dots either partially or entirely with different colours. And then again, when I finish it, the way that I will paint the top layer of clear coat will also drastically change it again. You know, if I was to do a straight clear coat, it would. No, I've watched it every time I've clear coated it. It creates a lot more depth and separation, or the perception of it anyway. It's like it pushes the black further back and it pulls the white further out. Which is, you know, it's really fitting, as well as if I put different additives in the clear coat, then then it's a very different experience again. And I never know what a painting's going to look like until it's finished, because I focus on dot by dot, and then, you know, it's so fitting for life, because once I've then done that, once it's finished, then I'll take a step back and look at it in its entirety. And, you know, back when I put one of the dots down that wasn't the way that I intended it to be, I would have to actively look for that dot to see if I can even notice it. And especially once there's more depth and then also movement, because it, you know, the way that I will paint the whatever goes on top of these dots will more than likely incorporate depth as well as movement, because at some point in my painting journey, I decided to incorporate skills that I had developed in photography of capturing, you know, depth and movement and all sorts of stuff. So it's, you know, at the moment I'm painting, but what I'm doing with the painting will also drastically change and impact my photography, even if I don't touch the camera for months. But it also changes everything that I do, because for me, the main thing that I do is focus on my state of being. That's my primary, and that's where I choose to have my primary focus and awareness, is on my vibration. And then what I'm doing is just what I'm doing. I'm not what I'm doing. Like, I don't identify as a photographer or a painter or anything. For me, it's more, I'm awareness having different experiences, because that's what my main focus is on, is the awareness behind it all. So I mean, I wouldn't actually say that's completely accurate, because it's a combination of that. Well, it's a combination of the awareness and the humanness of having and being the experience. Because you detach too much by just focusing on the awareness. It's all of the continuous integration of every facet of the entire being. Like this, for me, I do enjoy watching different things on YouTube. But I also don't feel the need to emulate somebody else. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed. I've got to go.